"Put the gun down, officer. You already saw my FBI badge." Maya Brooks spoke without raising her voice, even as Officer Ryan Mercer stood less than 15 feet away with one hand extended toward her and the other fixed on the weapon he had drawn moments earlier. Rain whispered against the pavement of a narrow Richmond street, turning the afternoon asphalt into a dark mirror for the flashing lights of his patrol car. On the hood between them rested a black leather credential case, open beneath the gray Virginia sky. One side displayed Maya's photograph and identification. The other held the unmistakable golden-blue FBI badge Ryan had inspected with his own eyes and laughed at. "Nice try," he had said, tossing it onto the hood as though it were something bought from a costume shop. Now Maya stood beside her black SUV, hands clearly visible, shoulders steady, breathing measured. She wore a charcoal coat over a simple navy blouse, nothing about her appearance announcing rank, authority, or the years she had spent walking into rooms where one wrong assumption could change everything. Ryan saw none of that. He saw a black woman beside a vehicle he had already decided was suspicious, and every calm answer she gave seemed to irritate him more. "I told you not to move," he snapped. "I didn't move. Don't argue with me." Maya's eyes shifted briefly toward the badge on the hood. Ryan caught the glance and gave a humorless smile. Still sticking with the FBI story? Across the street, a man under the awning of a corner market had stopped checking his phone. A woman near a parked sedan stood perfectly still. Farther down the block, traffic rolled through the wet intersection as if nothing extraordinary were happening. But Maya noticed everything. The witnesses, the storefront camera above the market entrance, the patrol car angled toward the curb, the tiny reflection of red and blue lights trembling in a puddle near Ryan's shoes. Most of all, she noticed the time. 4:16 p.m. Her phone vibrated once inside her coat. She ignored it. Ryan heard the faint buzz. "What was that?" "My phone." "Who are you calling?" "No one." "Then why is it ringing?" Maya inhaled slowly. "Officer Mercer, you have my credentials. You can verify them through dispatch." It was an easy solution. 30 seconds on the radio could have changed everything. Ryan glanced at the open credential case again, but pride had already carried him beyond the point where facts felt useful. "I've seen fake IDs before." "Then verify it." His expression hardened. "You don't give me instructions." Maya fell silent. That silence bothered him more than an argument would have. He expected fear. He expected pleading. Instead, she watched him with the composed attention of someone memorizing every word. Imagine standing there while the proof of who you are sits only a few feet away, completely visible, and realizing the person holding all the immediate authority has decided the truth is less important than his assumption. Maya knew that feeling. She also knew something Ryan did not. This encounter was no longer happening only between two people on a rainy street. Her phone vibrated again. 2 short pulses this time. Maya's eyes flicked toward her wristwatch. 4:17. Ryan stepped closer. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." "For what reason?" "I said turn around." "Am I being detained?" "You're done asking questions." His hand moved toward the cuffs on his belt. Maya did not resist. She did not reach for her badge. She did not make a sudden movement. She simply looked past Ryan toward the far end of the block, where headlights appeared through the thin curtain of rain. One vehicle, then another. Dark sedans moving steadily toward them without sirens, without flashing lights, without anything that would have warned Ryan what was coming. He noticed Maya looking past him and smirked. Waiting for somebody. Maya returned her eyes to his. Her voice was almost quiet enough to disappear beneath the rain. "You could say that." Ryan shook his head and reached for his cuffs. What he could not possibly know was that the next 2 minutes would change the meaning of every object on that street. The badge he had laughed at, the authority he believed belonged entirely to him, and the pair of handcuffs he was so certain were meant for Maya Brooks. 17 minutes earlier, Officer Ryan Mercer had been sitting behind the wheel of his patrol car 3 blocks from the corner market, watching rain gather in narrow streams along the windshield. The afternoon had been ordinary until a message came through his radio about a black sport utility vehicle possibly connected to a person investigators wanted to locate for questioning. The description was incomplete. The license plate was not confirmed. The driver was unknown. The only useful details were the color, the general type of vehicle, and the neighborhood where it had last been reported. Ryan acknowledged the message and pulled away from the curb. He had been with the Richmond Police Department for nearly 12 years, long enough to believe experience had sharpened his instincts. Sometimes it had. Experience could teach an officer to notice what others missed. But confidence had a dangerous way of becoming certainty, and certainty could make a person stop asking whether the first conclusion was actually the right one. Ryan turned onto a commercial street lined with brick storefronts, narrow offices, and parked cars shining beneath the rain. Less than a minute later, he saw a black sport utility vehicle near the corner market. Beside it stood Maya Brooks. She had arrived only moments earlier and was checking something on her phone before returning to the vehicle. Ryan slowed. He looked at the sport utility vehicle, then at Maya, then back at the message displayed on the computer mounted beside his dashboard. The plate did not match the partial number included in the alert, but he barely considered the difference. Instead of requesting confirmation, he pulled toward the curb. Red and blue lights washed across the wet storefront windows. Maya looked up immediately. There was no panic in her expression. She placed her phone inside her coat and kept both hands visible. Ryan stepped from the patrol car. "Ma'am, stay where you are." Maya stopped. "Is there a problem, officer? Is this your vehicle?" "Yes." "Identification." Maya studied him for half a second. "May I ask why?" That question changed something in Ryan's face. To Maya, it was routine. To him, it sounded like resistance. "I asked for identification." Maya remained calm. "And I am asking why I am being stopped." Ryan moved closer, rain collecting along the shoulders of his uniform. A vehicle matching this description was reported in connection with an investigation. Maya glanced at her sport utility vehicle. "Matching in what way?" "Black sport utility vehicle. There are probably 50 black sport utility vehicles within a mile of here." Ryan tightened his jaw. Identification. Maya could have ended the conversation differently. She knew procedure. She knew how quickly misunderstandings could grow when pride entered an encounter. But she also knew that legitimate authority did not become weaker when someone asked a reasonable question. "My identification is inside my coat," she said. "I am going to reach for it slowly." Ryan nodded once. Maya moved carefully, removed a slim credential case, and held it where he could see it. His eyes settled on the letters first. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Then her photograph. Then the badge. For one brief moment, the entire encounter had an exit. Ryan could have called dispatch. He could have checked the license plate again. He could have compared Maya's credentials with the federal verification system. He could simply have admitted that the vehicle might not be the one from the alert. Instead, he looked at Maya, then back at the credential case. "Where did you get this?" Maya's expression changed slightly. "It was issued to me." "By whom?" "The Federal Bureau of Investigation." A faint smile appeared on Ryan's face, but there was no humor in it. "Sure it was." Maya stared at him. Somewhere beneath the steady sound of rain, the moment seemed to become strangely quiet. She had spent years learning that people often revealed themselves not when they lacked information, but when accurate information contradicted what they had already decided to believe. "Officer Mercer," she said after reading the name on his uniform, "verify my credentials." Ryan took the case from her hand. He studied it again. The photograph matched. The name matched. Every visible detail gave him another opportunity to reconsider. Yet he closed the case halfway and looked toward her sport utility vehicle as though the truth must be hiding somewhere else. "Stay right there." Maya did exactly that. Her phone vibrated inside her coat. She knew who was contacting her. She knew why they were nearby, and she knew something else Ryan could not yet understand. She was not afraid of having her identity checked. She wanted him to check it. Because the difference between suspicion and misconduct was sometimes only one decision, and Ryan Mercer was about to make his. Ryan kept Maya's credential case in his hand, as if holding it long enough might somehow make the information inside change. It did not. Her photograph was clear. Her full name was printed beside it. The federal seal was exactly where it belonged. Maya watched him study every detail while the rain traced thin lines down the windows of the nearby storefronts. "You can verify it," she said. Ryan looked up. "I heard you the first time." "Then verify it." His eyes narrowed. "You seem awfully comfortable telling an officer what to do." Maya held his gaze. "I am explaining the fastest way to resolve this." There was no anger in her voice, and that seemed to frustrate him more than anger would have. Ryan had expected nervous explanations, perhaps confusion, perhaps fear. Instead, Maya spoke with the measured precision of someone accustomed to stressful situations. He interpreted that composure as arrogance. He did not consider that it might be training. "Turn around," he said. Maya remained where she was. "Am I being detained? You ask a lot of questions." That was one question. Ryan glanced toward her black sport utility vehicle. "Who else is in the vehicle?" "No one." "Where are you coming from?" "A meeting." "What kind of meeting?" Maya paused. "Federal business." Ryan gave a short laugh. "Of course." Maya said nothing. She had already offered him the simplest possible answer, and he had chosen not to believe it. Her eyes moved briefly toward the corner market. Above the entrance, a security camera pointed toward the sidewalk and part of the street. A man beneath the awning was pretending to study his phone, but the device was angled toward them. Across the road, a woman had stopped beside a silver sedan and was watching. Maya registered each detail without turning her head. Years of federal work had taught her that observation was rarely dramatic. It was often nothing more than remembering where people stood, what they said, and what happened in what order. Her phone vibrated once inside her coat. Ryan noticed. "Do not reach for it." "I was not going to." "Who keeps contacting you?" "Someone who knows where I am." The answer made him stare at her. "Is that supposed to worry me?" "No." Maya's voice remained quiet. "It is supposed to answer your question." For several seconds, neither spoke. Rain tapped against the roof of the patrol car. A delivery truck rolled through the intersection roughly 100 feet away, tires whispering over wet pavement. Ryan looked down at the credential case again. There was still time to change course. He reached toward the radio clipped near his shoulder, and Maya thought he had finally decided to verify her identity. Instead, he stopped. His hand dropped. "Open the vehicle." "Why?" "Because I told you to." "Do you have a legal basis to search it?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "You really want to make this difficult?" "I want you to follow procedure." That sentence landed differently. Ryan took one slow step forward. "You think carrying a fake federal badge means you know procedure better than I do?" Maya's expression barely changed, but something behind her eyes became colder. "I think you should be very careful about calling federal credentials fake without checking them." Ryan flipped the credential case open again and held it between two fingers. "This proves nothing to me." Maya looked at the badge, then at him. "It does not need to prove anything to you personally. It needs to be verified." For the first time, Ryan seemed uncertain. It lasted perhaps a second. Then pride covered it. He placed the credential case on the hood of his patrol car. The gold badge caught a pale reflection from the sky. Maya glanced at her watch. The timing mattered. She had been expected at a nearby location minutes earlier, and when she failed to check in, people would notice. Her phone vibrated twice. 2 short pulses. She recognized the signal immediately. Her team was close. Ryan heard it again. "Take your phone out." Maya looked at him carefully. "You just told me not to reach for it. Now I am telling you to take it out. I want to be completely clear. You are instructing me to reach inside my coat." "Yes." Maya raised her hands slightly higher so everyone watching could see them. "Then I am going to move my right hand slowly toward the inside pocket of my coat." Ryan stared at her. She moved exactly as instructed, slowly enough that there could be no confusion about what she was doing. But before her fingers reached the pocket, his posture changed. "Stop." Maya froze instantly. "Hands where I can see them." Her hand returned to view. Ryan's breathing had become heavier. Maya remained still. The badge sat less than 5 feet away, waiting to be verified. The radio was within Ryan's reach. The truth was available to him from every direction. Yet instead of reaching for the radio, Ryan's hand moved toward his holster, and Maya understood that the encounter had just crossed into something far more serious. Ryan's hand stopped at his holster, and for one suspended second the entire street seemed to hold its breath. Maya did not move. Her hands remained visible, her fingers open, her posture controlled. She had learned long ago that calm was not surrender. Sometimes calm was the clearest form of control a person had left. "Officer Mercer," she said carefully, "you instructed me to reach for my phone, and I followed your instruction. Do not tell me what happened. I am stating what happened. Turn around." Maya looked toward the patrol car. Her federal credentials still rested on the hood, open to the rain, less than 5 feet from a radio that could confirm her identity within moments. "Before I turn around, I need to know whether I am being detained." Ryan exhaled sharply. "Yes, you are being detained." "For what?" "Suspicious behavior." "What behavior?" Failure to cooperate. Maya's expression remained composed. I have followed every physical instruction you have given me. Across the street, the woman beside the silver sedan had quietly raised her phone. Under the market awning, the man who had been watching was recording now as well. Ryan noticed them and raised his voice. Everyone stay back. Nobody approached. Nobody needed to. The street itself had become a witness. Maya glanced at her watch. For 17 p.m. Her phone vibrated again. One pulse, then another. Ryan pointed toward her coat. Take it out. Maya did not move. You told me not to reach inside my coat. I am telling you now. Then I need you to acknowledge that I am reaching because you instructed me to. Ryan stared at her, visibly impatient. Take out the phone. Maya moved slowly. Her right hand traveled toward the inside pocket of her coat, exactly as instructed. Stop. She stopped instantly. Hands up. She raised them. Ryan's hand moved again, and this time he drew his service weapon, holding it in a controlled ready position while ordering her not to move. A quiet gasp came from across the street. Maya's heartbeat accelerated, but her face did not reveal it. She focused on Ryan's voice, on the distance between them, on keeping every movement deliberate. Do not reach for anything, he said. I will not. Turn around. Maya turned slowly until she faced her sport utility vehicle. Rain dotted the rear window. In its reflection, she could see Ryan several yards behind her and the flashing lights beyond him. She could also see the badge on the patrol car hood. The badge he had examined. The badge he had dismissed. Hands behind your back. Maya paused. Officer Mercer, before you place me in restraints, I am asking you one final time to verify my credentials. Ryan laughed. It was brief, dismissive, almost casual. You really expect me to believe you are Federal Bureau of Investigation? Maya turned her head only slightly. You do not have to believe me. Her voice was steady. You have to verify me. That distinction should have ended the argument. Instead, Ryan stepped toward the patrol car, picked up the credential case with his free hand, and glanced at it again. Anybody can make something that looks official, then call it in. Enough. He dropped the case back onto the hood. Maya looked forward again. Something inside her changed. She stopped trying to convince him. Not because she had surrendered, but because she understood that Ryan was no longer missing information. He was rejecting it. There was a difference. Imagine being given proof, a method to verify that proof, and repeated opportunities to correct course, then choosing the assumption anyway. Maya knew that whatever happened next would not be explained by confusion alone. Her watch changed to 4:18 p.m. The rain softened. Somewhere beyond the intersection, an engine turned onto the street. Then another. Maya recognized the low approach before she saw anything. Ryan did not. He reached toward the handcuffs on his belt. Last chance. Hands behind your back. Maya remained still. I am cooperating. Then do it. Slowly, she brought her hands behind her. The woman across the street kept recording. The man beneath the awning did the same. Ryan stepped closer, convinced the encounter was finally returning to the order he understood, the order in which he gave commands and everyone else obeyed. But Maya's eyes had settled on the dark reflection in her sport utility vehicle window. Two black sedans had entered the block. They were approaching without sirens, without flashing lights. Quietly, deliberately, her phone vibrated twice inside her coat. This time Maya knew exactly what the signal meant. Her people were less than 60 seconds away. The first black sedan was still half a block away when Ryan reached for the handcuffs on his belt. Maya could see its headlights reflected in the rear window of her sport utility vehicle, two pale shapes moving steadily through the rain. She said nothing. Ryan mistook her silence for defeat. Now we are finally understanding each other, he said. Maya kept her hands behind her back. I understood you from the beginning. Ryan paused. Then you should have cooperated sooner. I did cooperate. His expression tightened again. You questioned everything I said. Questions are not resistance. For a moment, Ryan had no answer. The distinction was simple, but accepting it would have required him to reconsider everything that had happened during the last several minutes. Instead, he glanced toward the people recording across the street. Put those phones away, he called. Nobody moved closer. Nobody lowered a phone either. The rain had softened into a fine mist, and the only loud sound was the patrol car radio carrying fragments of routine dispatch traffic. Maya listened carefully. Her breathing remained controlled. She knew the sedans were close, But she also knew that 60 seconds could feel very long when someone else believed he controlled every decision. Ryan removed the handcuffs. The metal made a small click. Maya looked toward the open credential case resting on the hood. You still have time to make the call. We are past that. No, Maya said quietly. We are not. Ryan studied her. What is that supposed to mean? Maya turned her head just enough to speak without making any sudden movement. It means verification is still available to you. Your radio is right there. My identification is right there. You have my full name. You have my photograph. You have everything necessary to determine whether I told you the truth. Ryan looked at the credential case again. This time his hesitation lasted longer. 5 seconds. Maybe 6. Maya could almost see the argument happening behind his eyes. One radio call could settle everything. But one radio call could also prove that Maya had been right from the beginning. Pride won. I know what fake credentials look like. Maya's eyes hardened. Have you ever verified Federal Bureau of Investigation credentials before? Ryan did not answer. Instead, he lifted the credential case and held it up toward her. This little badge does not make you special. Maya looked directly at him. I never said it did. The response seemed to surprise him. Then why keep bringing it up? Because you asked who I was. Ryan gave another dismissive laugh and placed the credential case back on the hood. Maya glanced at her watch. For 18 p.m., less than a minute. The first sedan slowed near the intersection. The second remained several car lengths behind it. Ryan still had not noticed them. Here is what is going to happen, he said. I am going to secure you. Then we are going to figure out who you really are. Maya almost responded, but stopped herself. There was no point anymore. He had reached the strange place where discovering the truth had become less important than proving his assumption. Her phone vibrated once. Ryan heard it. Your friends again? Maya looked at the reflection in the window. My colleagues. Ryan smiled. Federal colleagues? Yes. He shook his head. You really do not know when to quit. Maya's expression remained unreadable. That is not what is happening here. The first sedan reached the block and slowed to less than 15 miles per hour. Through the windshield, Maya recognized Supervisory Special Agent Daniel Reeves in the passenger seat. Daniel had worked with her for 6 years. He was not impulsive. He was not theatrical. If he was arriving personally, then the team already understood enough to treat the situation seriously. Maya shifted her eyes back toward Ryan. He was looking down at the cuffs, preparing to move closer. Officer Mercer, she said, I need you to listen carefully. No more speeches. This is not a speech. Ryan looked up. Maya's voice became quieter. Do not make another decision until you look behind you. Ryan frowned. For the first time, he heard tires rolling slowly over wet pavement behind him. The black sedan stopped approximately 30 feet from the patrol car. The second sedan pulled in behind it. Doors opened. Ryan turned his head. For people stepped out wearing dark professional clothing, their movements calm and deliberate. Daniel Reeves came forward first, credentials already visible in his hand. Ryan's confident expression disappeared. He looked at Daniel, then at Maya, then at the badge on his own patrol car. Daniel stopped several yards away and spoke in a voice that carried clearly across the wet street. Officer Mercer, keep your hands visible and step away from Special Agent Brooks. Ryan did not move. For several seconds, nobody did. Then Maya slowly brought her hands back in front of her. The balance of the street had changed without anyone raising their voice. Ryan looked at the handcuffs he was still holding, and for the first time that afternoon, he seemed to understand that the woman standing before him had never needed the badge to make her powerful. The badge had only given him one final opportunity to recognize the truth before the truth arrived on its own. Ryan stared at Daniel Reeves as though the simple act of looking long enough might restore the certainty he had carried only seconds earlier. Daniel stood beside the first sedan with his credentials clearly visible, his dark coat damp from the rain, his voice calm enough to make the tension on the street feel even heavier. 2 other federal agents remained several feet behind him, while a fourth quietly observed the surrounding traffic and witnesses. No one rushed forward. No one needed to. Officer Mercer, Daniel said again. Place the handcuffs on the hood of your vehicle and step back. Ryan looked down at the cuffs in his hand. I am conducting a lawful detention. Daniel did not argue. Place them on the hood. This woman presented questionable identification. Maya watched Ryan carefully. He still could not bring himself to say her name. Daniel glanced toward the open credential case resting beside the windshield. That identification belongs to Special Agent Maya Brooks. Ryan swallowed. You know her? Daniel's expression barely moved. Yes. The answer was only one word, but it erased the last comfortable explanation Ryan had left. Maya had not purchased a convincing imitation badge. She had not invented federal colleagues. She had not constructed an elaborate story beside a random sport utility vehicle. Ryan looked from Daniel to Maya, then toward the other agents. I had a vehicle alert, he said. Black sport utility vehicle. Possible connection to an investigation. Maya finally spoke. Did you compare the license plate? Ryan did not answer. Daniel did. We did. He removed a small device from his coat and looked at the information displayed there. The vehicle in your alert has a Virginia plate ending in 472. Agent Brooks' vehicle ends in 816. The rain seemed suddenly louder. Ryan looked toward Maya's rear plate as though noticing it for the first time. The description was close. The color was close, Maya said. The vehicle type was close. Her voice remained even. The plate was not. Ryan's eyes shifted toward the people across the street who were still recording. His confidence had begun to drain into something quieter and more complicated. She kept challenging my instructions. Daniel looked at Maya. Did you refuse to identify yourself? No. Did you refuse to keep your hands visible? No. Did you make any movement after being told to stop? No, Ryan interrupted. She reached inside her coat. Maya turned toward him. After you instructed me to retrieve my phone. Daniel's eyes moved back to Ryan. Is that accurate? Ryan hesitated. That hesitation said more than a quick answer could have. I changed the instruction. And I stopped immediately, Maya said. Daniel nodded once. Another agent, Special Agent Elena Carter, stepped closer to the patrol car without touching anything. She looked toward the credential case, then toward the storefront camera above the market entrance. There is exterior video coverage, she said. The man beneath the awning lifted his phone slightly. I recorded most of it too. Across the street, the woman beside the silver sedan called out, so did I. Ryan closed his eyes for half a second. Maya noticed. Until that moment, he had been telling himself a story in which every decision could be justified by the next one. Suspicion justified the stop. Questions became resistance. Resistance justified greater control. Greater control made every calm response seem suspicious. But now the sequence existed outside his memory. Cameras had preserved it. Witnesses had preserved it. His own radio traffic had preserved parts of it. Daniel stepped closer, stopping approximately 10 feet away. Officer Mercer, I need you to place the handcuffs on the hood now. Ryan slowly set them beside Maya's credential case. Metal touched painted steel with a soft click. Maya looked at the two objects sitting next to each other. Proof and restraint. Truth and assumption. For several minutes Ryan had chosen which one mattered. Now that choice belonged to someone else. His patrol radio suddenly came alive with a dispatcher calling his unit number. Ryan instinctively reached toward his shoulder, then stopped when Daniel raised one hand. Leave the radio where it is. Ryan froze. The dispatcher repeated the unit number. Then came another voice, this one from a supervisor asking Ryan to confirm his location. Daniel looked toward Elena. She nodded. The federal team had already contacted the department. Ryan finally understood that this was no longer a roadside encounter he could explain away before anyone else heard about it. Maya checked her watch. For 19 p.m. The 2 minutes were almost gone. Daniel looked directly at Ryan. Your department has been notified. Until the circumstances here are reviewed, you are not controlling this scene. Ryan glanced at Maya, and something unfamiliar appeared in his expression. Not anger. Not certainty. Recognition. The woman he had treated as suspicious had been telling him the truth from the first minute. Maya stepped toward the patrol car and calmly retrieved her credential case. She wiped a drop of rain from the gold badge with her thumb and closed it. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply looked at Ryan and said, You had every opportunity to verify me. Behind them, another patrol vehicle turned onto the block, this one carrying Ryan's supervisor, and the handcuffs remained on the hood between them, waiting for the next decision. The second patrol vehicle stopped behind Ryan's cruiser, its lights reflecting across the rain-darkened street. Lieutenant Mark Ellison stepped out almost immediately. He was a broad-shouldered man in his early 50s with 27 years in law enforcement and the expression of someone who had learned never to make conclusions before hearing the facts. His eyes moved across the scene in seconds. Federal vehicles. Witnesses holding phones. Maya standing beside her sport utility vehicle. Daniel Reeves near the curb. Ryan beside his patrol car. And on the hood, the handcuffs Ryan had been ordered to put down. Mercer, Ellison called. Step away from the vehicle. Ryan turned toward him. Lieutenant, I can explain. You will have that opportunity. Ellison approached Daniel first. The two men exchanged credentials and spoke quietly for several seconds. Ryan tried to hear them, but the rain and passing traffic swallowed most of their words. Maya remained silent. She knew this moment mattered because accountability could not depend on anger. It had to depend on facts. Daniel pointed toward the storefront camera, then toward the witnesses. Ellison listened. His face changed slightly when Daniel mentioned the federal credentials Ryan had refused to verify. Mercer, Ellison said, turning back, did Agent Brooks present identification? Ryan hesitated. She presented something she claimed was federal identification. Maya watched Ellison's eyes narrow. That was not my question. Ryan swallowed. Yes. Did you request verification through dispatch? Silence. Mercer. No, sir. Did you compare her license plate with the plate in the alert? Another pause. Not completely. Ellison looked toward Maya's vehicle. What does not completely mean? Ryan glanced down. The numbers did not match. The street became quiet again. Daniel said nothing. Maya said nothing. Ellison allowed Ryan's own answer to remain in the air. Sometimes truth needed no decoration. Then explain why the encounter continued. Ryan looked toward Maya. Her behavior raised concerns. What behavior? She kept questioning me. Ellison stared at him. Questioning you is not evidence of a crime. Ryan's face reddened. She reached inside her coat. Because he instructed me to retrieve my phone, Maya said. Ellison turned toward her. And when he told you to stop? I stopped immediately. Ellison looked at Daniel. Daniel nodded. Witness video appears consistent with that account. Ryan's breathing changed. The confidence was gone now. Lieutenant, I believed I had a legitimate safety concern. Ellison's voice remained measured. Belief does not eliminate procedure. Maya looked at Ryan and saw the first real understanding settle over him. Not understanding of her title. Understanding of sequence. Every decision had created the next one. He had received incomplete information, found a vehicle that only partially matched, ignored the license plate discrepancy, treated questions as resistance, dismissed verifiable credentials, and then used his own growing suspicion as proof that his earlier assumptions had been correct. Daniel stepped forward. There is another issue. Ryan looked at him. Agent Brooks was not simply passing through this area. She was working as part of an active federal operation approximately 4 blocks from here. When she failed to report at the expected time, her team initiated a location check. Ryan stared at Maya. You were working? Yes. Why did you not say that? Maya's expression remained calm. I told you I was on federal business. Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. The answer had been there. Again, Daniel continued. Her delayed arrival also affected an operation involving additional personnel. That impact now has to be documented and reviewed. Ryan looked suddenly smaller beneath the gray afternoon sky. His mistake had not remained contained within the few yards around his patrol car. It had traveled outward, touching people and responsibilities he had never bothered to consider. Ellison removed Ryan's service radio from active use and instructed him to remain beside the cruiser while another supervisor was contacted. Lieutenant, Ryan said quietly, am I being suspended? You are being removed from duty pending review. What happens after that will depend on the evidence. Ryan looked toward the witnesses, then toward the storefront camera, then toward Maya. For the first time, he seemed less interested in defending himself than in understanding how quickly certainty had become consequence. Maya checked her watch. For 19 p.m. Daniel walked toward her. Are you all right? I am. She looked at Ryan. But this cannot end with whether I am all right. Daniel understood immediately. This was bigger than one uncomfortable encounter. Bigger than one badge. Bigger than one officer realizing too late that the person he had doubted carried federal authority. Ellison stepped toward the hood and picked up the handcuffs. Ryan watched him. Officer Mercer, Ellison said, turn around and place your hands behind your back. You are being temporarily detained while we determine the appropriate next steps. Ryan froze. The words sounded strangely familiar. Less than 2 minutes earlier, he had spoken nearly the same command to Maya. Now he slowly turned around. There was no celebration on Maya's face, only a quiet sadness at how unnecessary all of it had been. A soft metallic click sounded beneath the fading rain, and Ryan finally understood the lesson his own authority had prevented him from seeing. A badge could grant responsibility, but it could never place the person wearing it above accountability. The sound of the handcuffs closing was quiet, almost lost beneath the rain, but everyone on the sidewalk seemed to hear it. Ryan stood beside his own patrol car with his hands secured behind him, while Lieutenant Mark Ellison carefully explained that the detention was temporary and connected to the review of what had just occurred. There was no shouting, no humiliation, no celebration from the federal agents standing nearby. That absence mattered. Maya Brooks watched from several yards away, her closed credential case resting in her hand, and felt no satisfaction in seeing Ryan restrained. Justice, she had learned over years of federal service, was not supposed to feel like revenge. It was supposed to feel like the truth finally becoming impossible to ignore. Ryan looked toward her. For the first time since the encounter began, there was no suspicion in his eyes. There was uncertainty. "Agent Brooks," he said quietly. Ellison glanced toward Maya, allowing her to decide whether to respond. Maya stepped slightly closer but maintained her distance. "Yes." Ryan swallowed. "I thought the vehicle matched." Maya looked toward her black sport utility vehicle. The vehicle was similar. "That is what I am saying. But the license plate was different." Ryan lowered his eyes. "I should have checked it." "Yes." Her answer was simple. Ryan looked toward the patrol car hood where her credentials had been lying only minutes earlier. "And the identification. You should have verified that too." "I thought it could be fake." Maya studied him for a moment. Thinking something is possible is why verification exists. Ryan had no response. Across the street, the woman beside the silver sedan lowered her phone. The man beneath the market awning did the same. What had begun as a private assumption was now preserved from multiple angles, not because anyone had planned it, but because ordinary people had recognized that something was wrong and decided not to look away. Special Agent Elena Carter approached Daniel with an update. The storefront manager confirmed the exterior camera recorded the entire interaction. Daniel nodded. "Secure a copy through the proper request." Elena moved toward the market. Ellison contacted his department and requested another supervisor to take custody of Ryan's equipment. Everything became procedural now. Times were recorded. Names were collected. Witnesses were identified. Maya's credentials were formally confirmed. The original vehicle alert was retrieved, including the partial plate number Ryan had failed to compare correctly. Each small fact removed another place for assumption to hide. Ryan listened as Ellison read the description aloud. Black sport utility vehicle. Different model year. Different partial plate. Possible male driver. Ryan slowly raised his head at the final detail. Maya noticed. "You heard that information earlier?" Ellison asked. Ryan hesitated. "I heard the vehicle description. The alert identified a possible male driver." Ryan said nothing. The silence answered for him. Maya felt something colder than anger settle inside her. The problem was no longer simply that Ryan had made a quick mistake. He had been given details that should have pushed him away from Maya as a likely match. Yet somehow each contradiction had become invisible once he decided she belonged inside his suspicion. Daniel stepped beside Maya. "Your team recovered the time lost. The operation is stable." Maya nodded, relieved. "Good." Ryan looked at her. "You were really heading there when I stopped you?" "Yes." "And you could not tell me more?" "Not safely. I told you what I could. I told you I was on federal business. I showed you who I was." Ryan looked away. Maya could see the sequence replaying behind his eyes now with a clarity that had been absent when it mattered. The plate, the questions, the phone, the badge, the opportunity to call dispatch, the laugh, the commands. Every moment had offered an exit, and every time he had chosen the path that confirmed what he already believed. Ellison approached Maya. "Agent Brooks, I want you to know this will be reviewed fully." Maya looked directly at him. "Do not review it because I am Federal Bureau of Investigation." Ellison paused. "Explain what you mean." Maya glanced toward the witnesses, then back toward Ryan. "If I had been a teacher coming home from work, would the questions matter less? If I had been a nurse, a cashier, a college student, or someone with no impressive title at all, Would the failure to verify the plate become acceptable? Ellison's expression grew serious. No. Then that needs to be the standard. Ryan slowly looked up. Maya continued, her voice calm. The lesson cannot be that he chose the wrong black woman because she happened to carry a federal badge. The lesson has to be that nobody should need a federal badge to be treated with fairness. No one spoke for several seconds. Even Ryan seemed to understand that the most important revelation of the afternoon had nothing to do with Maya's job. Ellison nodded. Understood. Maya slipped her credentials back inside her coat. The rain was almost gone now, leaving the street shining beneath a break in the clouds. Ryan was escorted toward the second patrol vehicle without spectacle, while Daniel opened the passenger door of the federal sedan for Maya. Before getting inside, she looked once more at the place where her badge had rested on the hood. Ryan had believed that piece of metal was the reason her words deserved to be trusted. By the time he was led away, he was beginning to understand the truth. Her dignity had never come from the badge. The badge had merely exposed how quickly he had forgotten that dignity was supposed to come first. 3 weeks later, the rain was gone, but the afternoon on that Richmond street had followed everyone involved into rooms far quieter than the one where it began. The department review included patrol radio records, dispatch logs, Maya's federal credentials, the original vehicle alert, storefront security footage, and recordings provided by witnesses. The evidence did not depend on memory. It created a timeline. Ryan Mercer had received an incomplete description. He had encountered a vehicle with a different license plate. The alert had indicated a possible male driver. Maya Brooks had answered his questions, kept her hands visible, identified herself, and provided credentials that could have been verified. Each fact stood beside the next until there was almost nothing left to argue about. Ryan was placed on administrative leave while the department examined whether his conduct violated policy and whether earlier complaints revealed a broader pattern. For Maya, that last question mattered most. She did not want a dramatic punishment designed to satisfy public anger for one afternoon. She wanted the system to ask the harder question: had other people stood where she stood without a federal team arriving behind them? Investigators began reviewing previous traffic stops and citizen complaints connected to Ryan. Some were routine. Others raised questions about how quickly suspicion had escalated when people challenged his assumptions. None of those cases alone told the entire story, but together they forced the department to look at something larger than one mistake. Lieutenant Mark Ellison requested expanded training on investigative stops, verification procedures, de-escalation, and bias in discretionary decisions. He also recommended that supervisors examine patterns rather than waiting for a single incident to become impossible to ignore. Maya read the preliminary findings from her office one evening as sunlight faded across downtown Richmond. Her credential case sat beside the report. For several seconds, she stared at the badge inside it. That small piece of metal had changed the way Ryan saw her only after other federal agents arrived to confirm what she had already told him. The thought still troubled her. Daniel Reeves stood near the doorway. "You could have made this about what he did to a federal agent," he said. Maya closed the report. "That would be the easiest version. And the harder version?" She looked toward the window. "What if I had not had this badge?" Daniel said nothing. Maya continued. "What if I had been leaving a hospital after a 12-hour shift? What if I had been picking up my child? What if I had been a college student borrowing her mother's car? The plate still would not have matched. The description still would have been incomplete. My question still would not have been a crime." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then that is the point." Exactly. Several days later, Ryan appeared before an internal review panel. He looked different without the confidence of the street surrounding him. He did not blame Maya. He did not claim that the badge had fooled him. When asked why he had ignored information contradicting his suspicion, he remained silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "I decided what I thought I was looking at before I knew what I was looking at." It was not an excuse. The panel did not treat it as one. But it was the first time Ryan had named the failure honestly. He had believed experience made his instincts reliable, then allowed those instincts to become more important than evidence. The department ultimately imposed disciplinary consequences and required additional review before any return to regular field duties could be considered. The larger investigation continued independently because accountability was not supposed to end when public attention moved somewhere else. Months later, Maya drove past the same corner market on her way to another assignment. The The storefront looked ordinary. Cars moved through the intersection. People hurried beneath the afternoon sun carrying coffee, groceries, and briefcases. Nothing marked the place where everything had changed. Maya stopped at the light and remembered the badge lying open on the hood, the rain collecting around its edges, and Ryan laughing because he believed authority belonged to whoever appeared to possess the most power in that moment. The light turned green. Maya drove forward. She understood something more clearly now than she had that afternoon. The real victory had never been watching the handcuffs change hands. It was forcing a system to confront why they almost had. Ryan had thought Maya's badge was what made his decision dangerous. He eventually learned that the badge was never the reason she deserved fairness. It only made his failure harder to hide. Authority could give someone the power to stop another person on a street, ask questions, or make decisions that changed an afternoon. But authority did not make assumptions true. It did not turn suspicion into evidence. And it never placed the person wearing a badge above the responsibility that came with it. Ryan once believed the badge on his chest made him the law. What he learned that day was simpler, quieter, and far more lasting. It only made him accountable to it.